let me tell you something. That X is a Christian symbol. That X is Andrew up on that cross. Because Andrew knew that the first three words of Christ's name in Greek meant it was an honorable thing. If you didn't know how to read and write your name, you put an X on the paper because it was a Christian symbol. Don't you come around here and telling me about what Beauregard and his men did. They had the stars and bars because they believed that you Yank friends hijacked the stars and stripes. And it looked so much alike in a battle when one of them, they third men was shooting on their own men. And when the Southern men chose this flag, they knew it was a Christian symbol. So don't come around here lying on my flag.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of Speak On It. I am your host, the one and only Mike Sean. I have my co-host with me, Professor Stokes. Hey, man, I got to show you this clip, and I need your honest opinion on what went down in this clip. Let's roll the tape.
Flag controversy in Macomb County. A man is accused of offending some of his neighbors for deciding to fly the flag right in front of his own home, and now the city's mayor is weighing in on this. 7 Action News reporter Simon Chowdhury is in Roseville tonight with why he's displaying it and the weight of the violence in Virginia.
There may be two American flags out here, but as of last night, there was a Confederate flag right near that door, but the man who lives here has taken it down since we're in front of his house. He tells us that he is an Army veteran who got injured in Iraq, and those injuries impair his speech, but it's clear what the Confederate flag means to him.
That means not welcome.
Not welcome?
No.
Who's not welcome?
Arabic people, black people.
This man did not want to give us his name, but he did not mind giving us his opinion. He has Nazi symbol tattoos like this SS and says he supports Hitler because he is of German descent. And what would you say to people who are offended by this?
I don't have anything to say.
We got tipped off about the flag when a Facebook user saw it as she drove around Roseville Tuesday. The man tells us he's an Army veteran who was injured in Iraq. He says his injuries impaired his speech, but not his freedom of speech. He patiently answered our questions and respectfully referred to me as ma'am, but he says he does not regret putting up the Confederate flag. But that doesn't mean neighbors like it. One man tells us this is not reflective of the Roseville community.
I think it's offensive to a lot of people, though. Mm-hmm. You know, if the person wants to make that statement, give them all the elbow room to watch, you know, let him expose himself.
Again, the man took the flag down, but he tells us he may put it up after we leave. We talked with several neighbors here, and some said they didn't mind the Confederate flag, but we couldn't get them to say that on camera. Now, we did get a reaction from the Roseville mayor, and he gave us this statement saying, "The city of Roseville does not promote the flying of a Confederate flag by anyone, but it is the right of our citizens to fly one if they feel it's necessary, which is a right given to them by our U.S. Constitution." He also tells us that Roseville does not support racism, and he plans on having a code enforcement officer out here when the flag goes back up to see if this homeowner is violating any codes. In Roseville, Simon Chowdhury, 7 Action News.
So, Stokes, Mr. Stokes, what is your take on what we just saw?
I don't even listen, man. First of all, Buddy can barely talk. Due to his injury in the war. That's number one. Number two, you can barely stand up, sir, and yet conservatives love to offend but hate to be offended. Like I've never seen a group of people who wants to, like you said earlier, when we were texting, they want to cancel everything, but when it comes to them, you know, I can't speak my mind. So this cancel culture is getting out of hand. I'm not even offended by dude, because dude, like, he has a whole list of issues he need to work on. Like, you can barely stand. Your teeth are apparently either not in your mouth or they're horrible. You have a lot of mental issues as well. So it's just amazing how conservatives get coddled all the time when they have these views of no, not welcome. Arab people, Black people, gays, trans people. I wanna offend as many people as I can, but when it comes to me being offended, I don't think it's fair. And that guy, I don't know how old this clip was, but he symbolizes the conservative party in a nutshell. I want to hold on to these white supremacist views, and I don't want nobody to say anything to me. And when somebody says something to me, how dare you? Isn't it amazing how hate is protected by the Constitution? Isn't it amazing how hate is protected by the Constitution? But if we speak out against hate, we are somehow the proponents of pushing racism. It's just amazing how this thing works for white people, and they say it's no white privilege.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this whole clip in this situation is that I lived in Michigan for a couple of years, some time ago, and of course I live in Alabama. I've been in Alabama for off and on 25, 26 years. You live in Georgia, right?
Right.
Well, I noticed when I lived in Michigan, I saw more Confederate flags up there than I did in Alabama. Right.
Yep.
Granted, you do see them out here, but not as much. You just
Correct.
don't see it in the city that I live in, or that you used to live in as well. It's interesting because at the end of this month, April, there is a Confederate Memorial Day. A few years ago, when I lived on the other side of town, I was in the process of having my water turned on because I had just bought a house, and I saw a letter on on the water office window, right? And it said, "We will be closed for commemoration of the Confederate Memorial Day." And I'm thinking to myself, this is wild. I mean, I'm here, a paying citizen, and they're going to be closed to commemorate, let's be honest, some traitors, right? And when I went into the establishment, I overheard some people saying, they were like, "Hey, you guys are closed on Friday?" And the lady, the receptionist, said, "Yeah, we're it's our holiday," right? It was mind-boggling to me. You have a group of people who they'll fly one flag one day, and then they'll fly another flag 364 days out the year. Because to me, I believe that some people, they still feel that the American flag does not trump the Confederate flag in some areas in this nation. And
Right.
we do know that a couple of installations, military installations, are being renamed. So your AP Hill, Fort Polk, Fort Rucker, those installations, they're being renamed because they did hold Confederate ties. They were named after Confederate generals and soldiers.
Right.
It's just crazy, man. Like you said, the guy in the video, he couldn't even articulate himself well enough to even spew such hatred.
Correct.
And what got me was they even asked some of the neighbors. The neighbors said, "Hey, I don't see a problem with it." But those same neighbors, they were scared to come on camera. That's very coward-like.
That speaks volumes.
And
speaks volumes.
And to be honest, man, I have no problem with freedom of speech. If somebody wants to fly a certain flag, based on the Constitution, that is their right, but they have to be knowledgeable of it will offend people, and people will take you to task.
But yeah, exactly, man. It's just amazing to me, man, how that flag, people will say, "That's my heritage," right? People will say, "Well, that's my heritage. That's why I fly the flag." But at the end of the day, you want me to understand it's your heritage, but you don't want to understand that's my trauma sometimes. Like Black people literally were lynched, beaten, sprayed with water hoses, denied simple civil rights, equal rights under that flag, and the American flag as well.
Yes.
And the American flag.
You gotta be fair and balanced.
Yeah. And the American flag. But that rebel flag represents succession from the US, succeeding from the US because you wanted to own Black bodies. That's your heritage. You wanted your ancestors were so mad that the government of the United States said, hey, slavery is wrong. We do not need to own human beings. You got so upset by that that you wanted to break away, or you did break away from the entire body of the United States just so you can keep Black bodies in chains. And here we are in 2023, or whenever this video was posted, when this story came up, that you and I could walk into a Target or Walmart or Starbucks or whatever, and we'll have a BLM shirt, and somebody will get totally offended.
They'll look at you crazy, but let somebody come in with a Confederate flag or a Confederate shirt. It's just a normal day, a normal occurrence.
It's what they believe. So why is it that I can't wear a BLM shirt? Because then y'all see me with a BLM shirt. Oh, they stole money. What hell? Y'all donate money to Trump every day, and he ain't doing nothing for y'all. He's not even the president, and you are still giving him money, right? And so again, conservatives like to offend, but hate to be offended. And that's the bottom line with it, man. We see all the craziness happening. Conservatives, these Trump supporters and other conservatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene takes her ignorant self to New York. I'm gonna on your tax dollars and my tax dollars. She gets a ticket, goes to New York to protest somebody that has been proven to be guilty of paying hush money to a prostitute. Michael Cohen went to jail for that. And so they're allowed to fly around freely under the banner of Christianity, spewing foolishness. Meanwhile, people in the street in this country are hurting. No food. I mean, gas prices, well, gas has settled down now, but inflation was this thing for a while where things were going up and people's salaries was not matching. And Republicans, again, no plan. All they want to do is obstruct and destroy, and they don't have a plan in place. It's amazing that they can still hold a position in the United States government, and they haven't put together a plan in 2 terms or 1 term when they had the presidency. But Biden is destroying the country, though.
Yeah, it's wild. Back to the flag. It's funny how people, they believe that you're preaching against their heritage, right? We have to look at it as the Confederacy lasted for 4 years, right? On paper. If you read the Articles of Secession from South Carolina, it explicitly states why they were seceding from the Union. It was slavery. Now, you will have people say we're talking about state rights here, taxes, but that all boils down to the commodity, which was slaves, right? Fast forward to 2023, you will have people that will suggest that, the Democratic Party is the party of the KKK and the Confederacy, right? And I tell them, and I let them know, right? Okay, let's say that's true, right? We're not even going to talk about the Southern strategy. We're not going to talk about how solid blue states in the South during the civil rights movement were all led by Dixiecrats. All of a sudden it became solidly red as we see today. We're not even going to talk about that, right? Let's just say that the Confederate flag is a Democrat situation, right? Okay, why is it that today liberals are the ones that are trying to tear these statues down and to try to change these installation names, right? But you have Republicans who want to keep the statues up. So those of that ilk that believe that the parties never switched, they have to tell me, why is that? Why are the Democrats the ones that are trying to replace these military installations with American patriots versus Confederate generals and Confederate soldiers? It's wild, man. I think this debate is going to go on and on, because for the simple fact that so many folks have been intertwined and in this whole melee, right? You have people who believe that it is their heritage. The Confederate flag is their heritage. The battle flag of Northern Virginia is their heritage, right?
Yeah.
The reason why they believe that is because after Reconstruction, right, when the U.S. government gave up on Reconstruction, all the so-called good old boys that resided in places like New Orleans, right, which was a Confederate haven for ex-Confederate soldiers and generals, right?
Yep.
They allowed the Confederacy to live on, right? Those principles. So that's why a lot of people today, they believe that it's part of their heritage. It's because their grandfathers, their great grandfathers, they had that flag flying at their residence.
Yeah.
So they're confused, you know, just like the Trump presidency, right? The Confederacy only lasted 4 years. The Trump presidency only lasted 4 years. How ironic is that, you know? And like I said earlier, I mean, people have the right to fly whatever flag they want, but like you said, so, don't look at me for wearing a Malcolm X T-shirt. Don't look at me funny for wearing that shirt. Because you're not looking funny at people who are wearing the Confederate shirts, right? Final thoughts on this whole Confederacy and just final thoughts.
Man, it's just foolishness, man. Like you were saying earlier. You're free to fly that flag, like you said. You under the Constitution, that's your freedom of speech. But it applies to me also. So if I want to wear Malcolm X tee, if I want to wear a Black Lives Matter tee, if I want to wear a t-shirt giving shouts to Black culture, I'm gonna do the same, because the same way you're protected by that, the same way I'm protected by that. But again, to sum it all up, is conservatives are snowflakes. They love to offend, but they hate to be offended or inconvenienced.
Yes. And to piggyback off what you said, right? I lived overseas. I lived in Germany for about 6 years, right? I had German friends, and this is back in the 90s. Not once did I see a swastika or a bust of Hitler, right? Everybody still understood that the war happened, you know, World War II happened, right? I went to Pearl Harbor last year. I did not see a Japanese flag, nor did I see a bust, a statue of Admiral Yamamoto. And if those of you who don't know who Admiral Yamamoto was, look him up, right? Look him up. That's so when y'all get mad that they're tearing down Robert E. Lee statues, right? When y'all are upset at that happening, ask yourself, why isn't there a statue of Admiral Yamamoto, the guy who orchestrated Pearl Harbor, the war that pretty much started off World War II, that got us involved into the war, you know? So I like to be fair and balanced, you know? We've seen people from YouTube, H.K. Edgerton, talk crazy. He tried to link the Confederate flag with the cross. Mind you, the guy who actually created the Confederate symbol, right? Stars and bars, he said it had nothing to do with Christianity. But here you go, H.K. Edgerton pushing that lie. And people are eating it up, you know? So folks, they always talk about read your history, know your history, right? That's well and good, right? But make sure you look at 4 or 5 different sources when you are researching history. Because if I go off of what I learned in school, in Alabama school districts, that history curriculum is based off of what was pushed by the Daughters of the Confederacy in the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. The Rocket City Network. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we are out.